Hey, how you perking? I hope you're perking good. My name is B, and I was gonna talk a little bit today about the viewer's voice, Nick Snider. Um, this is a big topic going on around in the drama community, the commentary community, the beauty community, the internet in general, Twitter. Just as a little bit of background, I am a licensed mental health clinician and I also am a spiritual intuitive. I have some background in this kind of thing. I like to take a look at human problems as that, human experience as that, and have a little bit of more of an educated opinion behind things, or at least I'd like to try to, and also glean a little bit of guidance from both the education and licensure that I have, as well as the spiritual perspective that I have too. And I find that it's helpful. Up to you on whether or not you find that it's helpful. So, I wanted to talk about Nick Snider, the viewer's voice. There's a lot going on right now about his sobriety. And he has said multiple times in his videos, for him in particular, you can call him whatever you want to call him. You can talk about whatever aspect of him you want to talk about. You can come for him in the comments. You can, drag him, all of this stuff. But what he asks for people not to do is to discuss his sobriety. So hopefully I'm not going to get in deep by talking about his sobriety today. But I'd like to think that he would approve of my approach here, because my approach is one of good intentions. My approach is always to be helpful and not harmful. So I am one of those people that subscribe to the belief, do no harm. So I really do try to do no harm. But what I want to say first is you can't diagnose strangers over the internet. So, yes, I may be a licensed counselor, but I don't try to diagnose people over the internet. That's not the way to go about things. You don't know anybody that you see on the internet. You only get to see a piece of their lives. People say that all the time, but it's true. You only get to see that one aspect of them that they're presenting to you, and that's that. So I'm not going to try to diagnose anybody here. However, what I will say, for everybody that is saying relapse is a convenience, oh, how convenient that he relapses when he's in some crap with the drama community and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, if you are someone who struggles with addiction, you will know that relapse is not a convenience to avoid internet scandals. People don't choose that as a means of a convenience to avoid internet scandals. If he wanted to avoid and dodge internet scandals, he'd have so many different ways and means to do that than to fake a relapse or literally create a relapse within himself. He has all these different ways he could avoid something. And he seems to be a pretty upfront and all about his authenticity type of man. And so I would think that if he didn't want to talk about an issue, he'd just tell everybody, you know what, I'm not going to discuss this today, so you can keep trying to ask me questions and watch my videos and probe me for information, but I'm not going to give any of it to you. I'm not going to talk about it today. I'd see him as that type before he'd be the type to, force himself to relapse so that he can get out of the hot seat. I don't see that as being a tactic that he or anybody would use. So let's get that one out the way right here. Also, just as some background information on addiction here. So you may not know, but addiction has so many more parts than somebody chose a drug and then they used this drug to escape pain. Sure, that's a part of it. Great, that's something. But there's more to it than just that. Addiction is biological, sociological, psychological, spiritual, and has experience piled into it. So all of those 5 different things are going on as it relates to addiction. First and foremost, addiction is biological. So everybody out there that wants to call it a choice, let me just say that science has proven that it's not a choice. So that's not really an argument that we get to use here anymore. I'm sorry, you like to think that that's an argument you can use. You like to try to throw that out as an argument, but that's not really an argument anymore. That's not up for debate anymore. Science has proved that addiction is a symptom of a dysregulated limbic system in your brain. So literally your midbrain, your amygdala and those parts of your brain, there's literally a dysregulated limbic system going on, literally a brain disease. And this is something that has been extensively studied and extensively proven, so it's not up for debate about whether or not it's a disease. Sure, you made a choice to use a drug, and now you have become addicted to that substance, and it's a disease. But guess what? Other disease, this is how disease models work, is it not? You choose to eat too much candy and you develop a disease called diabetes, and then you are eating a bunch of candy still, and people are like, why are you eating candy? You have diabetes. But you don't, get refused insulin when you go to a doctor. A doctor doesn't say, well, I'm not going to give you insulin because you've been eating candy and you know you're not supposed to be eating the sugar. Doctors don't do that. So why are we doing that with other diseases? You chose to eat a lot of heavy, fatty, red meats with lots of salt, and now you have hypertension, and you have to modify your behavior of eating red meats and salts and all of that to help with your hypertension. So there are a lot of other diseases with behavioral components that are still considered diseases even if there's a behavioral component. And people still, with hypertension, eat the foods they're not supposed to eat. With diabetes, eat the foods that they're not supposed to eat. And so they're relapsing, and we don't treat it the same way that we treat it when people are relapsing on substances. So just want to keep that in mind. So that's biological, the biological part of addiction. There's a psychological part of addiction. That much most people seem to agree on. Seems to be pretty clear. People know, okay, so there's something going on in your mind that makes you feel like, you're having these cravings. That's also a part of biology, but it goes into psychology as well. There's the psychology of it where we may be starting the addiction because we are self-medicating from anxiety or depression or other kinds of things like that, other psychological and emotional types of things, and we're using the drug to self-medicate. So that's a component as well. Sociological aspects of addiction, that's a component because we are, as a society, as humans, we are living in pack mentality. So we are pack animals, just like dogs, wolves, and things like that are. And we are a product of our environment in a lot of ways. So if somebody is in an environment, living within an environment with certain friends, with certain, maybe certain cities, maybe certain experiences among their social structure that makes it easier to support using drugs. Say you're hanging around a lot of friends who drink and smoke and use drugs. Say you're a part of a party scene that does. Say you're a part of a music scene as a music DJ or musician or something, and people, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? There's a lot of things in our social environment that may impact whether or not we choose to begin using substances, or whether or not we have as much access to using substances, or whether or not we have supports that keep us away from using substances, because that's something too. There is a spiritual component of addiction, and for that, it doesn't have to be, oh, you don't believe in a higher power and you really should. It doesn't have to be like that. Um, in a lot of cases, the spiritual component of addiction is just that if you don't feel like you have real purpose in this life, you don't have real meaning in this life, you don't have what you feel like, what is my reason for being here? What is this all about? Like having some broader purpose and meaning in life has an impact on addiction. People who feel like life is just kind of a weird cluster of all this stuff and there's not a whole lot of meaning, a whole lot of purpose in it, that'll deflate a person. That'll make a person feel like screw it, whatever. And that can take a lot out of people, and it can contribute to the cycle of addiction. And then last but not least, experiential. So experience is a component of addiction. So what we live, we experience. You may experience trauma in your lifetime that may add to your addiction. It may have, experiencing trauma may have impacted your ability to make decisions. It may have impacted the things that you chose to do and the ways that you chose to cope. And similarly, you can have positive experiences that can be protective and supportive in those aspects as well. But experience does play a part. So just remember, Nick is going through things that are 5 layers deep: biological, psychological, sociological, spiritual, experiential. He is 5 layers deep into something right now. So for people who like to make things, either it's this or it's that, and make things really superficial and try to make it sound like things are just so much more simple and easier to explain than they really are, I think you're doing a disservice to yourself by allowing you to convince yourself that. You're doing a disservice to the person who is experiencing the addiction, because it's dismissive and it's uninformed. And you're doing a disservice to society as a whole by perpetuating misinformation and stigma and lack of compassion, and a general lack of understanding about the complexity of something that you're speaking about but you don't know a lot about. So I would encourage people to consider that. So there's a lot of things in my mind that I think of when I think about his sobriety and what he's doing and what he should do or what he shouldn't do or how's it going to go and all this kind of stuff. And the spiritual side of me, sometimes just for interest, I like to add to my thoughts with the cards. So we'll do some cards today. And for anybody that says like, oh, you're doing cards, you're just trying to be like Aphrodite. First of all, he's awesome. And I do know who he is. I know of him. So that's a thing. But second of all, our styles are completely different. I don't know how long he's been doing tarot, but I've been doing tarot for 6 or 7 years now. Close to 7 years now I've been doing tarot. So I didn't start cards because of Aphrodite. I've been doing this long before I ever knew of his existence. And he and I do things a little bit differently. His talent, skills, and abilities are much more around predictive psychic abilities. So he likes to predict things and give some insights around that. For me, again, like I said, I'm a counselor, a licensed counselor. So what I do in my day job is a lot about, guidance through everything that I've learned through school, experience, and working. I've been in this field for 11 years now. the mental health and behavioral health field for 11 years now in lots of different capacities. So I use the cards, I tend to use the cards to offer advice around the situation at hand. So sometimes it delves into predictive stuff, but it's not flashy and predictive type psychic stuff. It really goes around guidance. And that's what I tend to use it for. So let's look into some guidance that could be helpful for Nick. What is it that Nick should know right now, or that could help him to know right now if he were to be able to hear this message? So let's see. We'll get our sense on that. As I dump some cards out. I'm dropping stuff. Look at me go. Alright. So, some overall general guidance to give Nick right now. The viewer's voice. As he's going through what he's going through, revolving around his sobriety. That's what we're looking at. So, for starters, just our starting cards here. What we're seeing here is that this is the start of something new. So this is the card that's going to symbolize him starting this path of sobriety. Right now, he has relapsed and he's thinking about, I need to start something new. I need to start something fresh. He's considering treatment programs and what kind of treatment that could be the best for him and yada, yada, yada. He's thinking about this, and he's really having to juggle some stuff going on right now in his mind, like people say that residential treatment would work better because then you don't have access to certain sociological and physical triggers that could get in the way of your sobriety. But then at the same time, who wants to do inpatient, between the cost of it sometimes, or between the thought of being inpatient somewhere? Some people are not too keen on that idea, and really trying to weigh things out. So he is trying to weigh his options. For anybody out there that's like, oh, he's just saying he's going to go to treatment, he's not really giving it any thought, he's not really thinking about it, the cards indicate otherwise. Yes, he is. And whatever choice he chooses is going to be a very helpful choice. So whatever he's thinking about is going to help. Now, what I'm seeing here is a release. That this is kind of this is a good thing. This is what he would want to see, that this is a release. This is something starting new. The downside to this, though, is that it could also mean not quite wanting something to end. So this could symbolize, the kind of ambivalence you feel as you're trying to embark on a journey of sobriety, where on one hand you're like, oh, I feel good, this is a release, I'm starting something new. But on the other hand, you're like, but what if they teach me through this treatment that I have to change and get new friends, and I have to change and stop going to the places and communities and parties and whatever that I used to go to, and I can't do that anymore. I don't know if I'm ready to give that up right now. So, how people can feel two ways about that, that's something that's going on right now. Also, with this is saying that he may encounter, so I don't know, I doubt you will ever see this, Nick, but I hope that you do, if this would be helpful for you. I really do. Is that there's a chance that Nick may struggle with really being able to listen to his gut and his intuition. He may struggle and kind of block out that voice. So there may be a lot of things that he's thinking and feeling that kind of override the voice of reason that's going on. And so if you notice that about yourself, Nick, and you notice that you're kind of getting away from what you intuitively feel is right for you, and you're kind of starting to make other decisions decisions and make excuses about those decisions or things like that, please pay attention to that, because that could lead you in a difficult direction. This is a burden that you are carrying, and this is a situation where this card doesn't tell us whether it'll be worth it or not. So let's pull a couple more and just see where else this takes us. Well, I got a card under that, but obviously that's the card. So as I was saying, we don't know if something will feel worth it or not. This is the card that tells us. So this is a card that's kind of like, you know, I've put in the effort, I've fought the good fight, and it's not freaking working out. And it's because there's some kind of an element going on where you feel emotionally drained from this. It's like Nick feels like he's down and out. He's been beaten. It's like, oh my God, what a setback. This is a setback, more of a setback emotionally to him than what a lot of people realize. I don't think a lot of people realize how hard on an emotional level this is for them. This is really hitting him hard. He feels like he's been thrown a couple punches and he's having a hard time getting up from those. So this is harder of a battle than what people are realizing and being sensitive to. So with this, we have the Death card and the Judgment card in reverse. So the Death card very rarely means actual death, but in this reading, I just do want to stress that this is a life or death situation. Sobriety can be very much so a life or death situation. So whereas I would like to think that this death card is not a literal death, but meaning the death of a certain way of being, of a certain chapter of one's life, is what I think it's referring to, I still want to underscore the importance and seriousness of addiction, and that this isn't something to play with or to take lightly or to be trivial about, because seriously, one wrong misstep and things could be over. So, but with this, this is the death of a certain way of being. This is kind of signifying the end of a pattern. Here with the Judgment card in reverse, yeah, there's going to be people out there who are judging him harshly for all of this. There are going to be people out here who are angry with him, who are fed up with him, who are annoyed. We already see that with the comments that we were already talking about a second ago. Yeah, sure, that's going to come up. And also, another aspect of this is Spirit saying, Nick, you're not using what we're giving you for what it's intended to be. It's like you have all of these gifts and natural abilities, all of this potential within you, and you're not stepping up to the fullest extent. You know, we want you to step up, recognize, you know, what's been given your way, and step up and take that. So we're seeing that. The World in reverse is saying that this isn't something that's just going to be a quick and easy process. So if Nick ever were to watch this isn't something like, oh, let me go to an intensive outpatient treatment program, IOP, a men's IOP, and do a program over a handful of weeks, and then after graduation, cool, I graduated the program, it's done. This is saying that this is a battle, basically a challenge, a life challenge that you will have to upkeep. You're going to have to maintain. So once you do go through treatment, which is very commendable, then please continue with groups, with sponsors, you know, whatever. There's not just one path to recovery, you know, there's multiple avenues to recovery. But please continue to pursue that even after treatment, because this won't end just with treatment, with one set of treatment. It's not going to just poof and go away magically. Also, some words of advice. Nick, please be careful of people who you can't trust. There are some people, and dare I say, in your friend circle that are perhaps not as trustworthy as you might hope they would be. Maybe you've gotten a gut feeling at some point in time that somebody may not be out for your best interests. And please listen to any gut feelings you have. I'm not trying to make you paranoid. Please don't take it that way. But please watch out for anybody that maybe doesn't have your best interests at heart, and trust accordingly. And then also, don't allow all of this to let you become emotionally shut down, emotionally cold, distant, bitter, bitchy, any of those things. I understand it's a very difficult time with a lot of difficult challenges, but please try to rise above any of those kind of knee jerks to just take the low road. Try to rise above that, because those kinds of impulses won't get you where you want to go. You might do those impulses of being, distant, or to lash out on somebody if you feel like lashing out. And all of those things are things that your body does as a defense mechanism to help protect yourself and keep yourself safe. But what I'm saying is that it doesn't actually do what you hope it will do and what you intend for it to do. So please know that as well. Let's see, any other pieces of advice to give for Nick at the Viewer's Voice? Any other pieces of advice, last advice? Choosing carefully, I see the cards are choosing carefully. Okay, so let me get another one on that. Okay, yep. So with these two cards, Spirit's saying just take things slow, and don't rack your brain over it. Don't push yourself too hard. You're going through a lot right now that can keep you up at night. That can bring on massive anxiety. Your life is a very fast-paced life, or it's capable of being a very fast-paced life. There's a lot going on. This is rapid communication as well. So lots of texts, lots of DMs, lots of videos, lots of this, lots of that. Pace yourself. And don't overwork yourself. Don't try to do too many videos. Don't try to tweet too much. Don't try to spread yourself too thin, because with all of this speed and forward motion, you could burn yourself out, and give yourself the time and the space and the slowness that you need for you to be able to really take care of yourself. Because again, addiction's very serious, and we want this card to signify a metaphorical meaning and not a literal meaning. It's very important. It's very important. We need you here. Alrighty, so I hope that this video was helpful to anybody. It's my opinion on the Viewer's Voice's sobriety. Hopefully he's not going to get mad that I've shared my opinion on sobriety when he said he doesn't want people to speak on his sobriety. And I hope that this message could get to Nick some kind of a way. I really do. If you think that this could be helpful, and you happen to have some kind of link to him, some kind of attachment or friendship with him, then please pass this message along. Even if you just pass it along by paraphrasing him and by paraphrasing it and not even showing him the video, I don't care. That's fine. But I just hope that he's able to hear this, if it could be of some assistance to him. And then also I hope that for everybody watching the video, you gained a little bit more perspective about the complexity and nature of addiction. Remember, biological, psychological, sociological, spiritual, experiential. So remember that. All right, everybody. Anyway, I'm hoping that y'all have a good day. And hope you're perking good. And I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys.